technology so that waste is managed in a manner where up to 96% of waste is diverted from a landfill and maximum resources are restored. Saahas Zero Waste manages around 100 tons of waste per day. He has also emphasized how waste management through resource recovery results in environmental and social impact, and is here today to talk to us about it in further detail. So without further ado, Ms. Wilma Rodrigues.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Ashmita, and thanks to the team. Yeah, very happy to be here. I will just share my screen. Okay, so it's good that waste management is included in this workshop because it is really so critical to our cities and to sustainability that we understand that waste management is really not so much about disposal, or rather it is about collection and management to the point where it comes back to us as a resource. So this whole process of resource recovery is an exciting journey, and I'm very happy to have been part of this for the last now 20 years, looking at the municipal solid waste rules and looking how to bring these rules alive on the ground. So when we talk today about zero waste, we are looking at all aspects of municipal solid waste being managed to the point of coming back and returning to us as a generator. So today, I suppose you all have had a lot of discussions about the relevance, of the real estate sector and the intense impact that the real estate sector can actually, the kind of influence and the kind of influence that it plays if we have to move and transition our economies so that we can take care of these problems around the climate crisis. Now, when you look at also I know that you've had discussions around low cost housing, but I really hope that, in giving this push for housing for all, which is very important, that critical aspects like waste management also feature in a way where resource recovery is integrated into that whole plan. Because whether it is a low-cost housing or whether it is a tech park or one of the any elaborate buildings that may come up, it is important for us to always understand that along with water, along with energy, management of waste, which is a part of every community, should be given equal priority. And today there is this big focus on net zero. I mean, that's what we've been hearing at COP26, that net zero is the way forward. But net zero without materials management, without reducing materials, virgin materials, is not going to really solve our problem around the climate crisis. So I bring attention to the fact that, in the world economy, we've had nature really playing a driving force. And very often we don't realize the role that nature has played in terms of the economy. Because today, when you understand the world economy, about 50% and more comes because of nature. So even in the construction sector, I mean, where do you get all your materials from? Whether it is concrete, whether it is glass, whether it is metals, whether it is the bricks, all of it comes from nature. And if we are extracting so much of materials for our buildings, then nature now demands that we give it back. And that is what we mean by a circular economy, just giving it back. And then, of course, reducing our dependence on virgin materials. And today, that aspect of our economy needs to be strengthened. We should not be manufacturing. We should not be producing materials if we have not planned equally to put it back, the materials that we have used after it has come to end of life. Yeah, because really nature knows no waste, and no species on the human planet really trashes and creates the kind of waste that we have shown as human beings. We talk about being smart, but actually we've not been smart in the way we've used our materials. And that is where we've come to the brink of this crisis. So, it is sad that actually over the last 20 years, and I did mention that I've been in this space for 20 years, and the trigger for me to start working with waste was the municipal solid waste rules. The first set of rules came out in 2001. And these rules actually recognize, what we've just described, resource recovery. These rules talked about no waste going to a landfill, about reducing, about recycling, all of that we're talking today. And then the second set of rules came out in 2016. And again, the second set of rules even was a little bit stronger, talked about the bulk waste generators. So all of the people here today as architects or in the construction space make kind of buildings, or you're involved with setting up communities, and these communities generate waste, and we refer to them as bulk generators. So whether it's an apartment, a tech park, an institution, bulk waste is something that has been given a lot of attention in the 2016 rules, where we now say that as you're building a building, as you're constructing any kind of building, you need to keep space, up to 5% of total space has to be kept for waste management. Unfortunately, we don't see architects, we don't see property developers, not just, we see them completely ignoring this aspect of the rules. And that's why there is this focus of just collecting the waste and not knowing where it goes after that. So this municipal solid waste rules becomes very important for people in the construction space to really understand these rules and implement them. Now, apart from the municipal solid waste rules, we have the plastic waste management rules. We have e-waste management rules. We have biomedical waste management rules. So there's a whole lot of legislation around waste, but the tragedy is in the lack of implementation, even the lack of implementation of labor laws. So today we see in the construction side, the fact that there is so much of informal labor, the fact that minimum wages are ignored, and the same kind of systems we see also in the waste management systems, where a large number of people work informally with very little access to even something as basic as minimum wages. So as an organization, we've been very focused on the fact that we're looking at resource recovery, 96% of resource recovery, and ensuring that there is social impact by compliance to all the labor laws. So that's how we define ourselves, Saahas Zero Waste, and I'll just quickly take you through what we do. And then I'd like to bring attention to the fact that any one of you can just unmute and also ask me questions so that this becomes a bit of a discussion. But as an organization, Saahas Zero Waste transitioned from an NGO in 2001 to a private limited in 2013. We raised some investment to expand our team, to expand to other cities. So today, as I think in the introduction it was mentioned, we have about a team of 300, and we manage about 100 tons of waste per day. But because we are focused on both the environment and the social impact, we are very closely also tracking our connections and the impact that we have also on the various different SDGs. because we know the issues around waste and the issues. India generates about 62 million tons of municipal solid waste every year. And the focus has been on collection. So to the point that 70% of waste is collected, door-to-door collection or collection through various other ways. But really the question is, what happens to the waste after it is collected? And there, the processing situation has really been very poor and neglected to a large extent. And that is the reason why we have, I mean, Delhi, for those of you joining from Delhi, perhaps the choking that's happening in North India is as much because of burning of waste as everything else. So air pollution, we have groundwater contamination, and then we have people working informally. So the kind of health impacts that such kind of working has on even children who are in this space. So as a social enterprise, we are now looking at a business model that meets the requirements of triple bottom line: people, planet, profits. But people and planet really take a much higher precedence for us than the bottom line. And I really hope that today businesses who talk ESG, who believe in ESG, where everybody is talking about sustainability and triple bottom line, I think today we as consumers, as human beings, have to push our businesses to be far more accountable to people and planet. And profits will come, but maybe they will be less than what it was in the past. And they should be less if we have to have a more equitable kind of society today than what we've had in the last 200 years. So when we talk circular economy today, in the context of waste management, we are looking at any building, any community generating waste. Yeah, and then you have today segregation taking place as in wet, dry, sanitary. But most people stop here, because that is, it's relatively something that can be done. Even the green buildings today, you stop at just putting out bins which say wet, dry, sunny. What is in the bins, where those bins are going to go, how is it being processed? Our green buildings today are not addressing that. Luckily, now there are new standards, the True Zero certification. Even the Green Buildings India Council is starting to understand that waste management cannot end with segregation at source. We've got to make sure that all the wet waste is composted or goes through a biomethanization process. Because in that process, you will get compost, which can go back into landscaping, it can go back into growing vegetables, and this can happen in apartments, it can happen also in tech parks, educational institutions, right at the place from where it is being generated. And biogas systems are also now, technology has evolved where you can pipe the gas directly into the kitchen and use it. Or if it's larger quantities, you can compress it and then you have bio-CNG used in vehicles. And then you have all the dry waste being collected. And then this dry waste which gets collected goes into a sorting area where recycling is not easy. Many of you will know that there is various different types of materials which need to be further sorted, and then these materials go to different recyclers. So there is a very intense process of cleaning out the materials, further sorting it, aggregating it, compacting it, and then finally transporting it to different recyclers. And then these recyclers, for them, this is raw material, which they then convert into different products. And these products then come back to us for use. Now, even this is not really circular. And this is where now we expect industry to be watchful for what they manufacture. Because if you are putting out a bottle, say a shampoo bottle, yeah, you need to make sure that recycling is such that that bottle comes back to you as a shampoo bottle. And that is what we mean really by a circular economy, because only then will we reduce the use of virgin materials. Likewise, in the space of construction, when you have, and today you do have the CND rules, which makes it mandatory for the construction industry to segregate all its materials, whether it is metal, whether it is concrete, and make sure that these materials are put to further use. And now there is enough of abilities for crushing, etc., to take place of these materials, and these materials can be used back at the site of construction. So obviously this is not done because there are cost implications for it, because it is a labor intensive exercise, but our commitment cannot be a commitment if we don't really do this. And consumers, people who are buying real estate, or government, or the policy makers now have to push for this, because otherwise, as I've said right at the start, we will be extracting a lot of virgin materials and not being true to our commitments to the SDGs or to the circular economy. So I will move on, but if there's any questions or details that are required, I'd be happy to take questions. So as an organization, we have 3 verticals. The first vertical is on what we call the Zero Waste Program, which works with large institutions, tech parks, office campuses, apartments, exactly like how I said, to make sure that the waste which is segregated at source goes into the campus as wet waste being composted, or a biogas plant, either on the campus or out of the campus, but there is a definite destination for it. And then all the dry waste goes to a sorting center, and from there we run a material recovery facility, so that there is a good way in which the waste is connected to a final recycler. This is where we also use some amount of technology for data capture, for tracing and traceability of the waste, so that we know where exactly each waste stream is going after it has been collected from our different customers. And we have now today about 100 customers working with us across Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Goa, and now we've also started operations in the north. The second vertical that we work with is on extended producer responsibility for plastic and e-waste. So this again is something at construction sites that we see a lot of plastic waste coming out of packaging, etc. A lot of cartons also coming in, but now all of this waste has to go through a system of proper management and go back to a recycler. Our second vertical, the EPR vertical, works with brands, etc., to help them channel all their packaging waste into proper collection and recycling. And then our third vertical looks at recycled products, where materials that we have collected, which have gone for recycling, come back, and then they are sold again to customers or on our platform, so that consumers can actually buy back some of the products which come back to them through our whole network of collection and recycling. So, people work with us, and we are one of the few organizations that have developed this whole kind of system around waste management, which is a formal system. And we would really like now, and that more organizations, and we'd really like if the informal sector, if we were to work more with the informal sector to help support them, strengthen this whole collection, sorting, and recycling. Our business is, our business model depends on revenues from sale of waste and also revenues from a service fee. So we will not be able to pay minimum wages or have proper end destinations for all kinds of waste if we did not charge our customers a service fee. So the service fee component in waste management is very important. It's also like a polluter pays kind of instrument that ensures better waste management. So we look at data tracking. We look at digitized financial transactions. We look at making sure that the staff are productive in terms of their attendance and the time that they put in. And we have partnerships and MOUs signed with all our end destinations. So there is a definite destination for each of our waste streams. We generate a lot of data, and this data then is made available to our customers. So the zero waste program, and I don't want to go into too much of details, but definitely it is something that every tech park or every apartment complex must now introduce as part of its maintenance plan. So because there is every apartment, every tech park or bulk generator generates organic waste, sanitary waste, e-waste, C&D waste, and all kinds of dry waste. And then, as I mentioned, all the authorized end destinations is what makes resource recovery possible. There must be data tracking, and there must be different kinds of solutions, because there could be some apartments which don't have space or not adequate space. So then the waste does have to go to a offsite for biomethanation. And then there are all the legal requirements which, as a formal waste management company, we have to really abide by. I've already mentioned about the EPR program, and this EPR program is now being well institutionalized in municipalities, in smaller towns, and also works a lot with the informal sector. And this is the kind of products that we generate. And this is something that you would want to keep in mind, because today plastic waste goes out. Some of it, which is low-grade plastic, a lot of it, which is low-grade plastic, does go into co-processing in a cement kiln. But some of the better grades of plastic goes into making boards. And these boards can be used as roofing sheets. It can be used as interiors. It can be used in parking lots. They're also corrugated sheets. So we would now, like the real estate sector, to make sure that in your selection of products, if you can put a lot of attention of what are the possibilities of making recycled products the number one priority in terms of selection, in terms of procuring it for each of your, or for any of your customers. Yeah. So these are the kind of customers and clients that we work with across India. And this is our impact. So, we are currently at about 100 tons per day, 80 to 100 tons per day. And when we say resources recovered, part of it goes into co-processing and part of it goes into recycling. We have about 213 people employed from the base of the pyramid, and 65% of our workforce are women. And this is the kind of impact we have on the various SDGs. No poverty because of the minimum wages that we pay, the fact that both men and women earn the same for the type of work that they do. There is no discrimination there. And that definitely helps in a better economic growth, because we're definitely looking at people earning better, earning more. And of course, then you have SDG 11, 12, 13, and 14. Responsible consumption is something that we promote, because we're always talking about reduce use of plastic, reduce use of any kind of disposable items. So all of that is the kind of SDG impact that we have. Yeah, and this is, so it's not easy to have an organization today which running this kind of a system without a team which is also experienced and well qualified. So whilst the workforce at each of our locations are people with lesser qualified, some of them have not even been to school, but it's more manual kind of work. But in order to drive the systems and the processes, you do need a senior management and an executive, well qualified and well experienced executive team. And that's what we've also put together at Saahas Zero Waste, simply because we have a service fee and revenues from waste. So we are now set to grow. We're hopefully going to grow considerably in the next 5 years, and of course manage much more waste. We hope to be about 500 tons of waste per day in the next 3 to 5 years. And then of course there's been a lot of acknowledgements for the work that we have done across, beginning with the Swachh Bharat Award and other several awards that we have won. So this is what I wanted to kind of take you through, and I'd be happy if there were questions at this point.
Does anyone have any questions, any observations? I think Shilpi had asked something. So I think, Shilpi, do you want to take it up? Yeah, please, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was interested to know how did they manage to raise the initial investment for the company, because it was started in 2001, right? But then they shifted in 2013 the proper operation and stuff. So what were the steps they took and how did they raise their initial investment?
Yeah, sure, Shilpi, thanks. So in 2013, we raised investment from the Indian Angels Network, which is also part of, Naga is one of the directors who supported the investment process through the Indian Angels Network, which also has an impact arm. So generally, we've been looking at impact investors. So Indian Angels Network, which is like a crowd sourcing platform, was one of the first investors. And so actually, we were fortunate that as an NGO, we had a lot of experience that we generated, and we kind of knew the whole waste management systems. And the reason why we moved on to a private limited is because it's important that waste does not stay as like a charitable activity that you do. It is a critical service that needs to be, pushed out to communities. So that was the purpose in which we set up the private limited. We were happy that the investors who came on board in that first round understood the importance of proper waste management. And because we had pushed a service fee as part of our business model, if you look at today waste management across, the narratives around it, it is, I will pay you for waste. So you give me your carton boxes, you give me your plastic, I have an app, and I will come collect your waste and pay you for it. In accepting this business model, we are doing a serious disservice, because the people that come and collect your waste do not ensure that they are get paid minimum wages. And most often in taking selectively only the waste which has some economic value, and that portion of waste is barely 10 to 15% of your total waste. So there is a focus on waste which brings value, and that is about 10 to 15% of our waste. But the overwhelming large quantities of plastic and other waste which has no value gets dumped, because then that is like an orphan waste. Nobody wants to address it. So I'm glad that our investors understood, in taking this difficult route of getting people to pay for waste management services, we built and we were able to show that we would build a sustainable business model and a sustainable system. And we were able to get the buy-in of the first investors to be able to achieve that. So today we are about last year we did 29 CR top line, and just about breaking even. And that brings us to a point of comfort now where we are able to also